My family was pretty religious growing up, so that meant being dragged to church on Sunday, and being dropped off to attend kids' church with my friends on Wednesday nights. I was always an outsider there, never believed, asked too many questions, never fit in, and never had a friend or a partner in any craft or project that the teacher didn't assign to me. So I knew I wouldn't have a friend to enjoy camping with, and I was equal parts excited but still pretty terrified of the woods. A year earlier, I had a horrible experience out in the woods with a girl. I couldn't even call an old friend. So the woods and I were not on the best of terms. Regardless, I brought my $50 and my permission slip back the next week, signed with almost no questions asked. In 2 weeks, we were going to be camping with another group of girls from another church. There were around 30 girls, all between 8 and 11 years old, a few teachers, but no one with any actual experience in the woods. The hike from the parking lot was pretty short, about 25 minutes. The elevation increased ever so slightly as we made our way up the mountain, and the view was amazing. Birds and small animals made the forest seem so alive and inviting. Peaceful in a way that the city, regardless of how rural, couldn't compete. I hadn't had a bad feeling even once, and as we made s'mores and roasted hot dogs that night, we heard the camp rules. No leaving the wagons at night without an adult, even to get water or go urinate, no exceptions. No leaving food out, no candy bars, no empty wrappers, everything needed to be put in the food box, a few hundred feet away from camp, and locked away. No food in the wagons. Most importantly, we were told to stay together. They didn't mention anything about predators, but my love for animals told me there were bears, mountain lions, and, according to my cousin, real-life monsters in these mountains. We got situated in our wagons. They were elevated off the ground and covered with fabric on the inside, but they were metal on the outside. I imagine this is what the travelers who weathered the Oregon Trail traveled in. It was interesting the first night. Although we made a group stop to the bathroom, which was a short walk up the trail, the wagon doors opened and closed for hours. The girls were homesick, wanting to call home, feeling sick after eating s'mores and hot dogs all day, drinking no water, and being out in the sun. The night's sleep was difficult. The forest sounds don't stop at night, and the same beautiful and lively sounds we heard on the way in were sinister and foreign at night. We all woke up early. The beds were not comfortable. The wagons cramped 12 or so beds into a small space. There was only the middle walkway that gave us any room, and the round roof was only about 1.5 feet taller than us. We had a small group hike planned to the popular sites of the area, and we went off into our groups with our assigned teachers. We were paired together within the groups, and they urged us to stay within shouting distance and to stay on the trail. My buddy was a girl from the other church. I was thankful it wasn't one of the weird, stuck-up, know-it-all girls from my church. They were miniature versions of their mothers, little shrews in the making. I swear I heard an 11-year-old tell another little girl to bless her heart, surely regurgitated from her mom's script of kindness. It was such a weird vibe. We walked for what seemed like 2 hours. The girls were tired and sore, and we finally got to our destination, which was apparently a beautiful lake in the middle of the forest. Still, we were on clearly marked trails, and about as soon as we got to the lake, we heard loud thumps like something hitting the ground in the distance, something falling from a great height. We looked at each other and at the 20-something-year-old teachers who brought us on our walk. The forest had been buzzing with life since we got out there. The younger teacher, whose name I can't remember now, stared back at the way the noise came from and shushed us with a finger to her lips, as she ordered us to turn around and walk back the way we came, no questions, no talking, just walking. She hung back, looking nervous, making sure we were in a tighter group and all the girls are together. She turned her back and looked behind herself a lot, but said nothing to us. The other teacher prayed silently, while we walked through the woods, fear all over her face as well. We heard something moving and branches breaking as the forest remained eerily quiet. We just came this way 20 or so minutes ago and the difference was so obvious. It's like the sound switch was turned off, except for whatever moved heavily in the distance. We only saw trees and green as far as we could see, whenever we stopped to look around. I felt scared and out of place, angry at myself for putting myself exactly where I didn't want to be again, and I didn't know if the teachers could protect us if something happened. My mind couldn't help but go back to where I was last year in the woods. The girls must have felt it too because they didn't argue, sing, no more skipping or going slightly off path to follow birds, or have a better look at the flowers. The sounds stopped for a while and the forest sounds turned back on. We, however, still felt that strange feeling in the air and quickly made our way back to camp. As tired as we were energized by fear. Grilled hamburgers were for dinner, but I was scared to drink, scared to eat, scared that I'd have to walk in the woods in the dark to the bathroom. I could tell apart the girls who were in my hiking group, even though I didn't know all of them, because they looked over their shoulders constantly, peering into the dark woods around us, not talking, distracted by fear. I kept looking behind myself too. The fire was so loud, living and breathing crackling warmth. I took the s'mores I was offered, but it cooled in my hand, leaving a sticky mess. My attention was behind me. It sounded like something was walking in the woods behind us. All around us. I tried to sit close to an adult, close to the fire right beside the wagon. Anything to feel safer. The teacher who took us hiking wasn't eating either, looking around her, no doubt thinking the same thing I was. If something was out there, how on earth were we supposed to do something? Her hiking partner chewed her nails nervously across the fire. I saw the teachers talking after dinner, all sharing the same look that the teachers who accompanied us before had. We all stared at the gun as she didn't say anything. We went to the bathroom in 2 large groups, and no one bothered asking for a shower. A quiet fear buzzed through the group. We didn't know why, but the atmosphere of the outing had changed, and the moodiness in the inky black night was contagious. As we walked down the trail in the dark, the loud dropping happened again. The sound was the same. A heavy thump on the ground, as if something fell from the trees or the sky, caused us all to look around, shining lights in all directions, and hurrying back to the wagons. The older teacher who led us on our walk was biting her nails, looking around impatiently as she took her girls and disappeared into one of the wagons. We heard the door lock and bolt, and we started getting our group together. We settled into bed. No one complained that it was almost an hour and a half earlier than when we went to bed yesterday. No one complained about the smell of stale sweat as we soaked our beds. Hypervigilance is so hard on the body, not being able to relax for even a moment, with your imagination reeling, and possible real danger just outside. A scream woke us all up a few hours later, and one of the teachers in our wagon and Miss Sharon shot up out of bed. Miss Sharon grabbed the gun and shot out of the wagon doors. We were so scared that a teacher stood behind Miss Sharon, telling us to go back to our beds, and she disappeared too. A girl was crying and begging to be taken home. She said she had a dream that something was trying to get into the back of the wagon, and when she woke up, she said she saw a shadow and something big and dark at the small viewing window in the back of the wagon, with red eyes looking in at her from the darkness. She begged to be let home and to have her mom called. The teachers whispered as we all panicked, little girls unsure of what to do. I kept quiet, still angry at myself for putting myself through another nightmare in the woods. Miss Sharon said it was too late to go back now, that we had no transportation, the wagons couldn't be left out here alone, excuse after excuse, but the bottom line was we were not getting out of there tonight. She settled for calling her husband. He was 2 hours away still at work, and would come and meet us up here as soon as he could. We were told to go back to bed, and absolutely no bathroom breaks or leaving the wagons until he got there or morning came. We laid in bed for a while. The girls in the last bed, sleeping beside the back of our wagon, covered the window with a pillowcase at first, but after a while, they asked to sleep in bed with someone else. Silence when you're scared feels time-altering, and every sound is so loud and foreign. It felt like ages until we heard something, but as we listened to the weird animal sounds, we heard grunts and low growls, ripping, and the dying screams of something, maybe being eaten. I hid under my blanket. I heard crying and praying in the beds around me. Miss Sharon stood beside the door, talking with one of the teachers, and she begged her not to open the door. She told the woman it was just an animal, and she had nothing to be scared of. She held her gun in her hand, eyes wide. She didn't even believe her own lie. A little girl begged her not to go outside, that something bad is out there. The look on her face made Miss Sharon reconsider. She backed away from the door, and she called for her husband in a whisper. We waited for his answer, but whatever was out there wasn't her husband. The sound of heavy breathing was easily recognizable. We heard heavy walking around the wagons, then loud running getting quieter and quieter, and then nothing. Miss Sharon peeked out of the small window in the back, and she shook her head. "It's so dark, I can't see anything. I don't hear anything." She still held the gun in her hands, and we sat there and waited for whatever it was to come back or try to get inside, while we were sitting blind in this tin can. For a moment I spaced out and forgot what was happening. After a while, we heard light footsteps outside. "Sharon. Sharon, which of these are you in, and where are you?" We heard a man's voice outside. She opened the door, and she jumped from the steps into his arms. He told her to get inside and close the door. Sharon's husband is a big burly man. The large wagon was dwarfed with him inside. I thought of the light steps. We barely heard him coming until he was right there, almost at the door. He said he felt this wave of nausea and anxiety as he drove closer to the woods, and he couldn't explain how odd he felt. Once he was out of the car and on the trail, he doubled back and grabbed another gun and more ammo from the truck. He said he heard rummaging and heavy breathing up ahead on the trail, and when he got to the food storage chest, it was ripped open, food everywhere, cans ripped open, most of the food uneaten, but all the meat was gone from the packages. The lock just broke on the floor. He said he heard heavy running in the dark on both sides of the trail, the sounds of branches hitting each other, and the dense bushes shaking when he shined his light over there. He ran against his better judgment up the trail, and he finally saw the wagons. The blood was what scared him, and the trail led right behind one of the wagons and off into the thick woods. There was a bloody mess outside, grass smushed flat, and blood and fur everywhere. He whispered to his wife and the teachers. Still, he stayed out there all night, which was only about 3 or so hours, waiting with his gun in hand and his back to the wagons, protecting us. The trip had another day, but we were all rounded up in the morning as soon as the sun came up and led out of the woods. All of our things were gathered in bags, and we had to sort through them once we got back to the church. The area behind the third wagon was covered with tarps, and we never got to see what was under there, but we let our imaginations do the rest. The drive back was scary because the roads that we took to get out here were the same ones that were inhabited by whatever was out there. We were given a refund when we got back to the church, and I made it clear to my parents that I was never going back to that church. My parents never asked why. When I got home, I went straight to my room. I sat there for a very long time, staring out the window into the darkness of the woods, wondering if there was something out there, watching me.